Alright, welcome back to C Studio. I'm DragonButt, and today I'm going to be walking you through the advanced options. So to access the advanced options, first you have to have a particular trait of that type selected to be able to see the submenu off to the right over here. So let's say I'll choose wings, and you don't see the submenu off to the right. So if I equip some wings, you now will see the advanced options off to the right. And once you have selected the advanced options in one of the menus, you now have it in all of the menus. Now for everything but the body and the clothing, the options will be position, scale, rotation, and then culling. Now the body and the clothing only give you culling, or the body and the clothing only give you culling, and that is due to not being able to change the world position, as that will mess up not only your rendering but many other people's rendering if you change your body position off 000 as the actual start position of it. And the clothing is tethered to the actual body to make sure that there's enough world space for clipping and culling and all this other stuff that I'll get into in a minute. Now, today I'm going to specifically cover the let me find something that I'm actually on. So I'm going to go over position, scale, and rotation, and I'll briefly touch on the culling, as that is a much more in-depth object that requires its own very lengthy subject matter and tools for me to show you how that all works. So to go ahead and right into it, I'll go to the hair, as it's pretty easy, and it's the easiest way to show you how everything works. Alright, there we go. Click back on it. Now, many people are used to different types of XYZ planes. So the 3D plane for this is 3VRM and 3JS. So it uses the Unity scale. So X is wingspan to wingspan across the arm, so it'll be left to right. So I'm going to move the position left to right for you. It'll go to the right, it'll go to the left, and here you can see some culling happening right here. I'll jump into that in a second. If you would like to reset the position, you can either put 0 back here, or you can demonstrate it again, or you can just hit this reset button right here. And again, that is X is left to right. Reset. Y will be up and down. Now, many people like myself, they're used to Blender and or CAD programs, are used to the Y being will be forward and backwards, so chest to back kind of movement. But on this particular scale, it will be up and down, so it'll be head to toe. So we will go toe, we will go above the head, and that is the Y-axis. And the reason why we've done this is, one, that's how 3VRM sets everything, and two, most VRM programs use Unity as a rendering engine, and this is the scale that they use for the world position. So that's why we've done that. It is very infuriating for Blender and CAD users like myself, but that's just the way it is. So again, Y position is down to the feet to the negative, and then positive is above the head. I'll go ahead and reset it. And then the Z-axis, the positive will be away from the body, from the chest, so it'll be moving away from you. You will be able to see your hair, and if you go to the negative position, it'll be behind your head, and you will not be able to see the hair. So it is forward from the chest, and then from the back, and the positions respectively. Now the scaling for each individual trait, we have it locked by default. You can unlock it by clicking this icon. Now if you want to just leave it like it is, it will, if you move one scale, it will move all three, and you will also see that it is moving the Y position. And the reason it is moving the Y position is that it tries to keep the center of this particular trait in some semblance of where the actual position was before. It's not exact 1-to-1 ratio, but it is very close. So I'm going to reset this and reset this. If you do lose while you're in the middle of doing scaling, if you do lose the trait that you're working back on, you can always just double click on it to render it back over here, and then click all of these resets. It does happen. But if you want to just scale one trait, like say you want to make it a little bit more volume on the X, you can scale it out that way. You can make it really voluminous, and you can go for the like L'Oreal hair over here. You can scale all of these individually if you're really want to get wild with it and then just go super, you know, like super big hair, you can. Or you can go like super flat hair. You can do whatever you want with it with the scale. Now our maximum scale is +2 and 0.5 on most traits, as going to 0 means you basically would be unequipping the trait. So we've only allowed you to go to 50%. So this particular scale, 1 is 100%, 0.5 is 50%, and 2 is 2x the size. Now the rotation is a little bit more tricky for most people because it doesn't work the way most people without 3D experience work or think they work. So the rotation will actually be based off the 0, 0, 0 position. So it will rotate off of whatever axis all the way down here at the basically where the secondary is. For those of you that know what that is, it'll basically act like a radius. And I have it pulled up in Blender over here real quick, and I'll show you in just a minute. But to show you in app first, you will see the x-axis will rotate like this. It'll go -90, +90, -90, +90. Now we are going to set these limits to -180 to +180 soon, so that you have 360 degrees of rotation. Same thing with the Y. Now the Y rotation is going to be rotate around the head, like you would think rotation would work, because it is on the 0, 0, 0 plane. And I will show you a little bit of difference with the wings in just a second. That there is some, if the trait is not directly on the 0 of that axis, it will rotate around. I will show you that in just a second. And then the Z rotation will rotate like this. It will rotate, or I'm sorry, I'll actually rotate like this. I got flipped around for a second. So you will see this rotate left to the right of the body, because it is moving 0 of the Z-axis, and it's basically breaking the Y-plane. Now for the wings, to demonstrate your, let me see if I can find it in there. All right, so to show you that the Z-axis rotation, or the Y-axis rotation doesn't perfectly rotate around in one spot, because there is an offset. So you can kind of see those center of the wings. You'll see them move around left to right on the body. So there is a slight disconnect if things are not on 0, 0, 0. Or I should say there is a disconnect on the Y-axis if it's not directly on the 0 like some of the traits are. Like the hair and a lot of the head accessories are all on the 0 on the Y-axis. So they will spin in a much more intuitive manner for those of you that aren't used to it. But to jump into the Blender explanation before I give you an example of how to move things around, like if you wanted to change a weapon from the back to the hip. So this is a brief, here is a trait. I'm going to show you the armature real quick, and I'm going to hide it again, just to show you that it is a VRM trait. All VRMs have an armature attached to them. But I'm going to select this particular super blue hair. I'm going to go ahead and go on the x-axis, and I'm going to rotate it inside of Blender, and you will see that it does very much the same thing, because it is, flip back around, it is on this secondary. So I have very poorly here, I have 0, 0, 0 circled, and then I have a very worsely drawn radius right here to the actual center of the head, and that's what it is basically rotating. So it is rotating on this, man, that's even poorly drawn than I thought. So it is rotating around this particular radius. As you can kind of see somewhere right here, it is now zeroed, or it is now directly in line of that particular radius. And it is going to it's keeping the same dimension away from the 0, 0, 0 on that plane. As it moves around that particular world position. So I'm going to change that. Now this Y-axis is going to go around this way, because again the Y and the Z are flipped from Blender to Unity engines. So you'll this is the Z-axis, which would be the Y inside of our program. So I'm going to set that back to 0, and then this is the Z-axis inside of our program. So even though it says Y here, it's imitating the exact same thing. It was just to give you a little bit of insight of why it's doing that. some people say that it's based off the secondary, but if I delete the secondary, it's still going to do the same thing. It's still going to rotate around the thing. It's just how far away it is from the actual 0, 0, 0. It does not break the plane, or it does not break that that radius to the center point. So it'll move around the circumference of a circle, basically. Going back to the actual program itself, I'm going to go ahead and grab a weapon and do a demonstration of how to move things around and scale them. Now, you will have to play around with it. It does take a little bit of getting used to. So I'm going to de-equip these wings real quick, and then we'll do the wings in a second. So we'll go here. First, we're going to rotate it where we want it. So I'm going to take, so I kind of want it, so I'm definitely going to want it parallel to the hips from looking from this particular viewpoint. So we will take the Y, whoop, that's position. That is not the one that I want. We're going to take the Y, we're going to move it so that it's here. So we're just going to rotate that 90, and then we're going to go over to the X position. I'm sorry, we're going to go to the Y position. We're going to bring it down a bit. And then I'm going to take the Z rotation. Whoop. And I'm going to lean it forward a bit. And we're going to go back to the Z position. We're going to bring it back, and then we're going to bring the Y up, and we'll have to take the X just a bit farther, little left. Whoop, too much. I'm doing this trackball right now, so it's a little harder than normal. Once you have a trait positioned, do make sure that you check your animations. So you will see some clipping because of where I put it. I don't know what the fuck is that. That's a, what the hell happened here? Oh, the animation. It's hard to recast this thing when it's fucking moving. Is this ears? There we go. Alright, I don't know what that was. I must have moved something around and didn't realize it. Going back to clothing, I know they have that equipped, and then I'll go ahead and play the animation again. So you will see some clipping where you put stuff, so you will have to be careful where you put stuff. We do have colliders in all of our bodies, but it doesn't register inside the base animations. But anyways, to jump into the culling a bit, let me do the wings real quick. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So if I wanted to move the wings around, we're just going to actually play with the scaling here and a little bit of the position. So I'm going to scroll down to here. We're going to relock the scaling, and I'm going to bring the scaling down just a bit. And then we're going to probably move it up just a touch. So we will go up on the Y. Woo, way too much. So we'll put them like right there. And then if you wanted to rotate them around and do whatever you wanted, you can. I don't really know why you would want to on wings, but your character, do what you want. So that's a... What the fuck? Oh, I dragged off the texture. That's a specific thing that I have enabled on the back end that y'all don't need to worry about. So I will bring it back up. I will bring it back up real quick. First we're going to scale it down where it was, and then we're going to bring it up just a touch. Reset. Alright, there we go. Now for the culling, I'm going to click on the hair here as soon as it lets me. And then I'm going to move the position off to the side. And you can see that all of this hair is culled out right now. I'm going to stop the animation just so it's much easier to focus on. So quickly to go over the culling, the only things that you really need to know is go over to the body. If you have a cull in distance that isn't exactly 0, turn it to 0. That is my best recommendation for the body itself. So you have layers, cull out, and cull in. So layers mean there's granular control. So if a layer has a layer that has a greater number than that particular layer, and there is something like, say there's a 1 equipped, like the hair is a 1 right now. Let me scroll down to it. And the body is a 0. That means the hair can cull in or cull out the body. Now, if they're both on layer 0, which I'll demonstrate real quick, they cannot cull out each other because they're because they're equal to each other, and granular control means that it has to have a greater number. So 1 is greater than 0, 2 is greater than 1. Layer 2 can call out layer 1 and 0. Layer 0 can call out -1. We have 99,999 layers on the positive, and same thing with the negative. So there's actually, a lot of layers. I don't really feel like doing pointlessly saying numbers for no reason. But you can do whatever you want. You can set as many layers up as you want, or you can keep them all pretty basic. So the only caveat to any of this is that if you have 2 granularly controlled layers, and I'll set this to layer 1 so that it does cull it out. If you change the cull out distance to 0, it will no longer give a higher layer or a greater than layer any control over that particular culling out, because cull out distance 0 actually means null. It does not mean 0. It does not mean that if it has no distance between it, it means that there is no authority granted because it is a null value. Same thing with a cull in. And that's basically all I'll briefly go over. That is that you need to be, if you want to cull anything out, you need to be on a higher layer. So 2 can cull out 1 and 0. 1 can cull out 0, -1, all the way down. 3 can cull out 1 and 0 if you want. It can also cull out 2. But if you set the cull out distance to 0 on the layer that you are trying to cull out, you will not see any rendering of any mesh being culled out. Now, it is all static culling. It is not occlusion culling. So it is, as soon as something is culled out, it is culled out the entire time it is rendering. It is not point of view of the camera or anything. Now, there are ways to set up occlusion culling inside of other programs, and I'll show you how to do that inside of all of the culling video that I'm setting up for you all. I'm going to go ahead and reset this particular position. There we go. And then I'm going to pretty much leave it at that. That's really all you need to know for most of this particular video. The only other thing that I do recommend the only other thing that I will add on culling is, if you are going to mess with the mesh or do any culling, make sure you have all of your traits equipped before you start interacting with the mesh. So you can remove mesh by holding control click. So control left click will render mesh out. But if you add another trait, let's say I want to add a tail, it will re-render that in its basic state. So before you interact with the mesh by either double clicking on the mesh to render it back in. So let's see, I want to render this back in, this particular piece of mesh. I can double click on it. If you want to render it out, you control click on it. And then that particular issue is something that I won't get into because it's something that I have on my end that you won't actually see. So we will re-click the body. We're just going to click the body. And then you will see that particular piece move away. If you do see that error pop up, just re-render the body. You don't have to refresh everything. Don't hit the reset or leave the site. Just re-render the body and that'll go away. Same thing with whatever trait that you ever see that on. Anyways, make sure you select all of the traits that you want before you start interacting with any mesh here, because anytime you add a trait, it will put it back in default, and that is for assembly reasons and there's really no other good way to fix that. So just one small little caveat. If you have any questions about position, rotation, scale, or anything, feel free to email me by clicking on this little icon right here and then getting our whatever mail. It'll just bring up my email address, or you can contact us on Discord, Twitter. I think we have a TikTok. I don't really actually know about that one. Feel free to contact us. Thank you for your time.